My name is Brian Royer, and so I've been a part of the church now here for about 3 years. Coming up on 3 years, so we're excited to be here, but I'm excited about sharing a thought during communion. But before we get started, I would like to pray. Father, thank you so much just for the opportunity to be here this morning, but more importantly, just to be able to sing praises to you. Father, we are here to worship you. Father, despite sometimes the distractions, the busyness, the things that have gone on this morning, God, I know these things can cut in and disrupt us or distract us, God. And I pray right now as we think about communion, we think about your Son, we think about his sacrifice, God, we can allow all these things that distract and confuse or cut in on us to just melt away so that, Father, we can stand at the foot of the cross. We can reflect on you and, more importantly, your Son, and why we're here to worship you and honor him this morning. We ask this all in your Son's name. Amen. Amen. So, I was thinking about, we're in sports week right now. Whether or not you're a fan of sports, everybody becomes a fan during this time of the year, right? In the Super Bowl season, my wife does not watch sports typically, but she will watch Super Bowl.
All right.
She will watch the commercials more than the Super Bowl. But I really look forward to the time of the year because it's an opportunity just to spend time together. And whether you are a Patriots fan, any Patriot fans, you have to give honor where honor is due. You can talk about Inflategate and all this stuff that ain't going on. But the fact is, it takes a lot to achieve what one team has over a few years. And so, and you got the Rams coming up. And the thing when I watch sports, it always draws my attention is, at times when teams will honor somebody. You see that they put patches on their uniform or they wear things on their helmet, and they're doing these things because they're trying to, one, create like this camaraderie, this drive, this incentive to do their best. They do things to remember someone who's maybe sick or someone who was fallen. Maybe a teammate that had passed on that was a prior player. And they do these things just to kind of create this drive. Now, I don't believe any of these two teams have done that or wearing any kind of patches of significance to remember something that has gone on. But teams have done that, right? We've seen this. There was one that stood out to me this year, a student who went to Purdue University. And I wanted to share just a little bit and tie this into the communion message. This kid, his name was Tyler Trent, I believe. This helps. Oh, I have words on the paper. All right, yes. So Tyler Trent. Now, if you don't know who Tyler Trent is, Purdue accepted him as the super fan. When he was in high school, earlier, about 3 years or so, he was playing Ultimate Frisbee. And during that time when he was playing Ultimate Frisbee, his arm broke. Not sure why, just broke, snapped. Went and had to have surgery later on. They had to replace his arm from his titanium arm all the way down to his elbow. His pelvis ends up breaking because they found out that he had terminal cancer, bone cancer. And you think about that for a second. You're like 18 years old, and you get diagnosed with terminal cancer. What kind of attitude would you have, right? I sit here and I'm baffled by that, just because I know that we can go through challenges in our own life. And here this kid was. He becomes a super fan for Purdue, and they embrace him as a team. And he made this quote because he died right after Christmas. And this is what he had said. Though I am in hospice care, I have to wake up every morning knowing that the day might be my last. I still have a choice to make. To make that day the best it can be.
Yeah.
Yet isn't that the choice we all have every day?
Yeah.
After all, nobody knows the amount of days we have left.
Yep.
Some could say we are all in hospice to a certain degree. So why don't we act like it? Where is our gratitude? With Christmas coming up, what are we thankful for? I had to write my will recently, and I'm just thankful that I can give my family Christmas presents. Maybe even for one last time. Let us not forget that my doctors gave me 3 months to live, almost 2.5 months ago. So why can't we live grateful lives? Why can't we make every day count like it's the last? It's a 20-year-old kid saying a profound statement.
Come on.
And it makes me stop and think about the things that I sometimes occupy my thoughts with. You know, why when situations happen I get disappointed or I get angry? Why is it that instead of being unified I become disunified? Why is it that I don't love my wife the way I should because of something that may have happened? And these things go on in my own personal life. Why do I get angry with the driver that seems to not be doing what I want him to do or her to do? And so I go through and I don't live in the moment as if it was my last moment. And I don't believe we need to have situations like this, like Tyler, to necessarily motivate us, but it should make us stop and think about what do we think is important. What is important to you? You know, we've all had physical and emotional weeks. You can sit here and I just momently pause, and those things happened to you this week. Some of it wasn't right. Some of it wasn't fair. But it happened. And sometimes we say things because of that situation, but the things we said weren't what we should have said. Right? We acted out the way we shouldn't have acted out. And that happens. And that's why when I think about communion, it's an opportunity to know that whatever I did or however I fell short, I'm grateful that I have an opportunity to stop and be different going forward. I have an opportunity to stop and remember that, am I making this moment, my statement, my words, my actions, is it the last thing I want to be remembered? It doesn't matter what happened yesterday or even this morning. And even if you fell short this morning, it's okay, because we sit here today at the foot of the cross. In the shadow of the cross, we come and we can have an opportunity to remember Jesus and remember his example and to say, you know what, my actions will be different. I have so much to grow in. I'm grateful in this time in my life as a disciple that, after almost 28 years, that God is still refining me.
Amen.
When my thoughts and my opinions become the thing that is right, and I have forgotten that there's things bigger than me. And that is the cross.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that. The passage I want to read is in Romans chapter 12. You don't have to turn there. But Paul talking to the church in Rome. And therefore I urge you, brothers, in view of God's mercy. Don't lose sight of God's mercy.
Yeah.
Everything is in view of God's mercy. When someone says something to us, treats us not the way we think we should be treated, my eyes should be focused through the lens of mercy. But he goes on and he says, to offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God, which is your spiritual act of worship. Do not conform any longer to the patterns of this world. And that is so easy to do. We're living in a time where people can just say what they're thinking, say what they're feeling, and you have to accept it, even if it's flawed. And if you don't, you're some phobe of some kind. And I'm just saying, as we sit here in this room, we can control ourselves to say, I will look at through the lens of mercy.
Amen.
I will worship God and personally as my spiritual act of worship, despite circumstances, right? Do not conform any longer to the patterns of this world, but be transformed. Amen. By the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is. His good, pleasing, and perfect will. God has a good, pleasing, and perfect will. Even in the midst of disunity, even in the midst of pain, even in the midst of hurt, even in the midst when our family members are in hospice, and we have family members and friends that are close that are going through times of great difficulty and loss. Let us be men and women of mercy. Not because we have to, but because the cross calls us to. That is the motivation. I'm grateful that I have gone through some challenges. Sometimes I don't always feel grateful about them.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful for them because I see it as an opportunity to be refined.
Amen.
And it's an opportunity for me to be different. So when we take the Lord's Supper, I want you to think about how are you going to be God's praise and worship? How are you going to set God on the pedestal where He belongs, to honor Him? Despite your challenges, you will face many when we walk out here today. But we can hopefully stop and pause and give mercy and love and be more like Jesus from the moments we face than maybe we were when we walked in here this morning.
Yeah.
Father, I thank you so much that we can come to you to pray. I'm grateful for the opportunities we've had so far this year to pray with our partners. I'm grateful that we can be unified. But I'm also grateful that you give us opportunities to put our emotions and our feelings to the side and we strain toward trying to be unified and to give you glory because we have received great mercy from you. Help us to be merciful and gracious and forgiving and loving. Help us to be what you need us to be so that we can inspire each other, but also help others come to know you. Thank you for the sacrifice of your Son. And thank you for the purpose that He gives us in our lives today. I ask this all in your Son's name. Amen.